got their volume on. Is that you, Garrick? Yeah, I can hear feedback, dude. Right, I'm hearing YouTube from somewhere. Sorry, guys. Oh, it's me. Hi, guys, and welcome to the Now Debate. I apologise for that slight issue in our starting here. There we go. Sorry. Guys, welcome to the Now Debate. I'm Jared Walters with my good friend Richard Oliver. And today we have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Garrick King to the show. Garrick is an independent ITC researcher from Oklahoma who contacted us around about the time, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we put a video out about some of the things that we've been receiving from the Council of 12. And we were originally talking to Garrick about some of his visual ITC work, which we will cover today because that's going to be absolutely epic. We've got some epic images to show you guys. But also, after we put that video out, Garrick had received through ITC a message from what sounds like the Council of 12. And this is the first time we have actually had someone else have an actual response, an actual ITC response, which says we are talking to the Council of 12. So this is really, really interesting given the work that we have been doing. So Garrick, welcome to the show. As always, I'm joined by my partner in crime and the better looking one of the team, Mr. Richard Oliver. Richard, how are you doing today?
Contact with the Divine Council. I think there's a bit of a synchronicity going on here.
Well, can you just make that point again? Sorry, we're having a few technical hitches. Right, just make that point again, Rich. You're loud and clear now.
Right, yeah, basically with the Israeli ex-space minister talking about contact with the Divine Council. I think that's pretty amazing synchronicity in light of everything that's going on. I think it's not the first, and I don't think it's going to be the last we hear of this story. And I was just having a conversation before we went live with Garrett, and it's fascinating. The things you've photographed and the things you picked up are just incredible.
Thank you.
And it needs to be shown. And this is, I'm really excited and chuffed that you're on this platform to show it. To be honest with you, it's incredible.
I'm absolutely blown away. Garrick, before we give you the floor, my friend, because there's going to be lots of opportunity for you guys to speak. I know there's a few people in the chat that have actually come from following your work. So
wow.
I think it would be an idea if we give a little bit of an update as to any new people joining tonight, as to what the Council of 12 is, why it is important to this channel and the work that we've been doing. So just to let you guys know, if you are new to the channel, basically one of the threads throughout our paranormal journey over the course of the last several years has been contact with what we believe to be a group of beings known as the Council of 12. We have also had, and this will become apparent as we go forward, other spirits and other beings and other groups that have come forward with the Council of 12. The one obvious one some of you might have heard about would be my brother Jonathan, that works with me in spirit when I work as a medium. Richard was the first out of the two of us to have contact with these beings back in around about 2006, Rich?
Yep.
So basically Richard was the first to have contact with these beings through meditation. And we, throughout our paranormal investigation work, we had these messages over time that basically talked about things that were going on in the world, the awakening of humanity, and basically things like spirituality. It was talking about history. It would talk about the Bible. It would talk about religious texts. It would talk about, you know, a whole plethora of different things over the
UFO
course.
sites.
UFO sightings.
Yeah.
We have direct references to the Penturk incident, the UFO crash that happened here in South Wales in 2016, of which we have analysis and interviews with the witnesses on this channel. Most recently, the most recent video we've put out is they gave us information to do with the American election and things that, which is very interesting given the article that Richard is talking about. Richard, is there anything else you'd like to add, just to give people a bit of an insight into the Council of 12?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't really. I mean, I had conversations with the Council of 12, and I experienced them through meditation. But my first encounter with them was quite, for myself personally, was quite a negative one, because they said they were testing me and they were influencing my meditations. It was only, I didn't really think much of it, to be honest. So I just put it down to an experience. It was only when they came through the ITC equipment and said, "Hello, it's us, the Council of 12, we've met," that it made it something. It give it, meat, if you like. I can't think of a word. It just give it substance. And the messages have been incredibly spiritual, and it's just been, I don't know, it's not really something you can kind of sum up, because we're still in it. We're still going through the process. We're still trying to find answers, and it's just in light of everything that's been coming up lately and the synchronicities, because that seems to be a common theme in the paranormal. The synchronicities, we all seem to, like, all the people who tie into this puzzle seem to connect with each other somehow, and it's incredible. It's an incredible thing.
Well, just to bring you, Garrick, into this, you were not actually the only one that contacted. There were actually 3 people during the same time as you contacted us. So you sent us these messages that have also said they have had some sort of communication with this Council of 12. So this is really, really, really interesting. So I'd like to get a little bit of so thank you for coming on the show, my friend, and I'm glad that I just wanted to give a bit of an update, because I knew there were some people watching that may not be familiar with this case that we are continuously working on and continuously hoping to bring you guys evidence of, because it's huge. I think it's overwhelming just how big the implications of this actually are, and I don't think we really appreciate it just yet. I would also like to ask if anyone's watching, for anyone watching, could you just let us know in the chat if the audio is okay and you can hear us correctly and properly. If you could do that, that would be fantastic, and don't be shy. Please share your stories, share your thoughts, your opinions, and we will try and read them out on the show as we move forward. So Garrick, over to you. If you want to give us a little bit of insight into some of the stuff that you've been doing, how you got into it, a little bit of your story would be, I think, a really good place to start.
Sure. I have basically my entire life, since the age of 3 or 4 years old, have just had paranormal experiences in almost every single place I've lived, except for one, and it was a brand new house that no one had ever lived in before. But and it's just been overwhelming with the experiences that I've had, that it's just led me to know, not believe, but to literally know that there is something more going on in this realm that we cannot see. And I've just always been fascinated with that sort of thing.
Excellent. And how did you get into doing the sort of visual ITC work?
I started off using the apps like Deadwave and EVP Shifter, the SCD2, and it was only after I had made a connection with my father, and then that connection ended, that I got a little frustrated, I guess, and I wanted more. And so I had started, looking at YouTube and watching videos on YouTube, and had seen other people do the video feedback loop. And I thought, I can do that. I'm going to try that. So I went out and bought all the equipment and set it up. And lo and behold, stuff just started coming through. And I was just shocked, like the stuff that was coming through. And I have a friend who's a total skeptic, and I would send her images, and she remained a skeptic, but now she's really starting to believe, because I send her these images here now, and I'm like, can you believe this image came through? And she goes, from you? Yeah, absolutely, I can believe it.
I've had that reaction from people. That's well, thank you for coming on the show, my friend. Do you have any impressions when you get the images? Do you get any sense of maybe who the people are, or do you sense or feel anything when the images sort of come through? Can I ask?
Sometimes, but not always. I've gotten one where it felt like, and I don't know if I sent you that one or not, but it literally looked like snow and like blood all in the snow.
Yeah.
And it made me think of, and I can't think of this incident, but it was these campers on a mountain, and something happened where it looked like they had all ran out of their tents, and they all ran in different directions, but they were all dead when they were found. And it just literally, that was the first thing that came to my mind. And so I thought, am I seeing some scene from this event? I don't know, but that's the first thing that popped into my head.
So how do you I didn't actually put that. You did send it to me. I haven't actually put that one on the actual screens, I don't think, because I was concentrating more on the sort of ones of faces and figures of things. But yeah, you have actually, there is one scene that you have got, and we will show it later in the show, of a volcano erupting, which I thought was quite something.
Yeah, that one was really wild, because when I came across it, if you notice in the image, I had to flip it up this way, because when it came across the screen, I was looking at it like this, and I'm like, what is this? And I started to tilt my head, and I was like, oh, wow. And then I tilted the image, and I was like, that is a volcano.
So with the water, do you agitate the water then?
Yes, I'll actually hold the side of the bowl and just gently move it forwards and backwards and side to side, just to get it swishing around. I don't usually just go in one direction. I just kind of mix it up and just really get it going in all different directions.
So if you want to explain, there's two types of, I know you do ones with vapor. I didn't really much include the vapor ones. I think I might have included one or two. But I know the vapor, it's like ITC with fire, isn't it? And you can see shapes and images in fire. Is it something very similar with the vapor ITC stuff, can I ask?
Yes, the vapor is actually what I started off with.
Right.
So I went out and bought this, it's like a room humidifier, and just started taking photos of it coming up through. Took lots and lots of photos with nothing in it. But it was just those odd ones that would pop in that something was there. I mean, there's one that's just, it's kind of amazing to me, because it looks like a gargoyle's face. And it's so crystal clear. I mean, it's right there.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that looks like Christ, holding, I don't know if it's a dead person or someone who's ill, but you can clearly see their robes. There's another one of a wizard. It looks like I called it like an ancient Chinese wizard, but it looks like he's holding a scepter, and you can see his face, you can see his robes, you can see his hand, and all of this in smoke. And I was just like, wow. wow.
So if you want,
sorry, Jess, I remember having a conversation. I got to just make this point, because this keeps coming to me. I remember having a conversation with a gentleman, and I think he had a page called Convex Light, and he was using the blade off like a lawnmower, and the blade off a mixer that you'd see on like a building site where they mix like plaster or cement, and it was polished chrome steel, and he was using that with the camera, and the images he was getting, right, were incredible. Now, I remember having a debate with him. I was saying, well, I don't know how you can say this is paranormal. But thinking about it over the years after I had this conversation with him, he was doing the same thing. He was doing the same thing as the water. He was doing the same thing as the infinite loop on the camera. It was just the way he used a convex image to use bending light form. And I thought, it just popped into my head. But then the images, he was getting pyramids, he was getting ETs, the things he was capturing. And it's just like, I think there was a bit of a lesson learned for me that, this stuff is there for us to look.
Right.
I mean, I'd like to point on one thing. I would like to know, you said you had contact with your father, Garrett. How did that feel? Can I just ask that before we move on? I just would like to know how did you find? Did he make you believe? Was it enough?
Yes. At first, I was skeptical because it's, I wasn't sure who I'm connecting with. So I started asking control questions, that only he should know the answer to, and I was careful not to ask the question in such a way that I was giving the answer away, because I didn't want, another spirit to pop in and, and start answering for him. But when he started accurately answering questions, I asked him to tell me what his father's name was, which is Alvis, and that's not a very common name. I asked him what his mother's name was, and it said Juanita. I asked him to tell me when his birthday was, and he accurately said April 7th. And then I even wrote down a number on a piece of paper and said, can you tell me what this number is? And at first he tried to guess. He said 10. And I was like, no, it's not 10. And then he said 12. And I said, I don't want you to guess. I want you to look and tell me what, I wrote on this piece of paper. And there was a voice that came through and it said, look, like it was telling him to look. And then he said it. He said 33. And I was just like, wow. But, I mean, he had things to say to my mom. I said, do you have anything to say to Mom? And he said he told her that he still loved her, even though they had been divorced for several years before he passed. I asked him if he had anything to say to my brother, and he came through and said some very meaningful things to my brother that he probably should have said it when he was alive, but he never did. He had told my brother that he wished he had been a better father. My brother and I, we have the same mother, but our fathers were different. So I think my dad treated me slightly different just because I was his blood. And I think my brother kind of felt that and kind of resented him for it, through his entire life. But just hearing him come through and tell him these things, then it really kind of turned my brother around. And so he actually tried to do a session in which he was trying to contact him. But he got a response back saying that Philip was not there. So he was like, okay, well, I'll try again later, But I don't think he's as passionate about it as I am. So I don't think he's tried, doing it since. But yeah, I mean, getting those responses and, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it just warmed the heart. And my dad, even in one of his responses, he said, I miss you, and that he loved me. And I was just like, wow. So, and I made little short videos to send to my mom and to my brother just saying, listen to this. I mean, this is absolute proof that it is him. So it was very cool.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. For those who are watching and may not know, ITC with audio, it basically is a method of, if people know of electronic voice phenomena, and that basically is that if you are in a room and there's ambient background noise, spirit can manipulate that ambient background noise to give a response. There are devices out there which we use on paranormal investigations, such as ghost boxes, which with the handheld one we have, it's a radio which sweeps at a high rate. So basically, you will get a high rate of sweeping, basically, of like it'll sound like a chugging, and Spirit will use that to, will use that to give a response. So you may hear a few words here and there. With the apps, because they use digital radio, you may still get the odd bits of radio, but you will get much longer responses because Spirit are affecting the audio coming from the app, which is sweeping at a high rate. And this is we will show you this later. There's plenty of examples on the channel of how this works, but we will show you this, and we're probably going to do a much more in-depth video on how ITC works and how we actually get to these responses very, very soon. Actually, probably coming up in the next week or two, to be honest with you. So, Garrick, could you explain to us a little bit about how you do the water ITC and the infinite loop ITC?
Yeah, let's start with the water first. So, I mean, it's really super basic. I mean, I just got a large black bowl. You can use any type of bowl, but I prefer just a black one because it adds the contrast behind the water, and I don't have to worry. Like with a clear bowl, you kind of have to worry about what's coming through, kind of obscuring your work.
Yes.
But with the black bowl, it has that contrast. So I always sprinkle a little bit of salt just for clarification. And then I purchased something called spirit oil, which I got from artoftheroot.com. And I just put a drop, that's it, in the water. And I only put a very little bit of water in there, and I will ask the spirits to come through and show themselves to me. And I will just slowly, again, just start moving that bowl in all different kinds of directions. Not hard, I don't vigorously shake it because I don't want the water going all over the place, but just gently, just to get it moving around. And I will hold my camera in my other hand and just shoot really short 25-second to 30-second videos. And then I'll go back and analyze them and find all these faces coming through. And sometimes there was one that I got that was so bizarre. It was like looked like some sort of elfish like character. I don't know. It was very bizarre. I don't know if I sent that one to you or not. But I just here recently, ever since making this connection with the Council of 12, it's just been an abundance of extraterrestrial faces coming through. And I mean, just a lot. I was getting some before, but now it's just super heavy coming through. And I actually got one just yesterday.
Oh, wicked! You have to send me a copy.
Yeah.
So what about the infinite loop with the television, and how does that one work?
That one is just a video recorder. It's using an HDMI cable plugged into a TV. I don't have anything else plugged into the TV, so there's no satellite, there's no cable, there's no DVD player or VHS player, nothing, just the video recorder. And it's pointed directly at the TV, about 3 feet away from the TV. And I've noticed here lately that sometimes it helps to kind of angle it so it's sort of shooting the side of the TV. And then I will zoom into the image, because with the video recorder pointed at the TV, what you're seeing is the TV inside the TV inside the TV, just this infinite loop going into infinity. But as you zoom in, it starts to create this warping effect. Sometimes it'll look like smoke moving across the screen. Sometimes it'll look like I kind of describe it like a Xerox machine, how the light will just move across and it just keeps going just back and forth like that. And I will stand off to the side and shoot video. And again, very short videos, 25 to 30 seconds, and then go back and analyze it. And these pictures, these amazing pictures, are coming through.
Well, let's have a look at some of these pictures. I'm
Sure.
gonna bring one on screen now, and you guys will. Garrick, this might be a little while before you see this, but this is the first one, and you should see it if you've got the monitor. You should see it come up now, very 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 shortly. But this is the one that grabbed our attention. It's like the half face of a gentleman. It looks like a slightly older man to me. And what you've done is that you've kind of I've put the two images together because it looks what you've done is kind of mirrored it so it makes the whole face.
Right.
That's the one that really got our attention, to be perfectly honest. It was actually Richard's attention, actually, and he was the one who messaged me. And Richard, you should be able to see this now. Are you still with us, Rich? Can I ask?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at this. This image is just fascinating.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. It really is. I mean, the detail is quite something.
What's interesting about these is when I'm going through frame by frame, you actually see how everything starts to fall into place. And then once the face is there, most generally it will only be there within one frame, and then it's gone. Sometimes it'll stick around for 1 or 2 frames before it goes, but it's so quick that, again, you cannot see it with your naked eye when you're watching the video loop. It's only after you have, recorded it and gone back and analyzed it frame by frame that these things show up.
This is quite incredible. Would you say that is a human face, or would you say that was more?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn. It has human features to it, but at the same time, the eyes are very large. And when you look at the corner of the eye, when it gets to the side of the face, it's so close. Yeah. I don't know. It's really difficult to say.
It's quite an interesting, and obviously the length of distance between the edge of the nose, because you can see the nose there with the ridges, but it's like there's a good sort of inch between the nose and the mouth. There's a good sort of line there, so it feels like the head is slightly elongated somewhat. Yeah.
It doesn't look. I mean, from first impressions, when I saw the image, when I first saw it, because I believe I saw it on Facebook, and I thought, my God. Now I've had ET contact, and I had ET contact through meditation, and that is very similar to one of the beings I came in contact with. It was so strikingly similar that it made me go, and that's why I messaged Jared, but yeah, that is quite. It's just quite something. I can't really sum it up. It's just, it's an incredible thing. This is, the way we're being contacted and the way these anomalies are happening. How many times has this happened and people haven't watched it? I mean, this is in the realms of the skull group experiment, and this is. This is big. This warrants more of our attention, and I mean that face is self-explanatory. That's a cover.
So how does that make you feel, Rich? Because obviously, if you recognised it, how did you feel when you recognised that face?
Well, it's been like that since we've had the contact. It's kind of like. I've said it's like the message Spirit give us. They ask us to talk to the people that don't want to listen, and they're asking us we're not trying to convince the people who are listening and who are in the same sort of boat as us. And it's kind of like that. It's like, yeah, I know, I recognize that, but what can I do with that? Where does that go? I don't know what it changes for me. But it does kind of, it just adds another layer to this mystery. It just adds another layer. It does make it more, and it does make me believe more. I got to tell you the truth, it does. Right? I can't say it doesn't, because it does. Every little step and thing that's happened over the last couple of years has just give me more validation, and that kind of does. That kind of thing, and it's happening more frequently.
And this is a water ITC, and which we're going to bring up on screen now, guys. And basically, this is quite something. Now I know you've added a bit of coloration to this, but this is the old grey alien, basically, that you're seeing here, and this is like another incredible kind of one, because you don't really see noses too much on a grey alien. But on this, you can clearly see its nose. You can see how defined its lips are. You can see, this is very similar to the face that I saw in the being in my bedroom that was my first contact. Was when we talked about this back in 2013, and we've talked about it this year. We've talked about it on this channel. It's in this is very similar to the picture that we took as well in the Griffin, the one that's actually in the beginning credits of this show. So this is another incredible piece of picture here. What were your thoughts when you captured this, Garrick?
I'm amazed every time that something like this comes through, because I've had several UFO experiences, but I had one very odd experience when I was probably, I want to say maybe 19 or 20 years old. I was still living at home with my parents, and I had gone out with a friend, and I came home. It was pretty late. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning. And I went into my room, and for whatever reason, something made me look over towards my closet. And my closet had a full-length mirror on it. And what was so weird is there was a layer of dust on the mirror, but in the shape of a gray alien's face. The eyes, the little nostrils, the mouth, and only the head was dust. But like where the eyes were, there was no dust there. And the weirdest thing about it, like, it didn't scare me, it didn't shock me, but for some reason I went over and took my hand and just wiped it away, which makes no sense, because as cool as it was, I should have went and woke up my parents and said, come look at this. But for whatever reason, it was like I was meant to see it, and that was it. I got rid of it.
It was quite funny, because when I transcribed this message for you, I had the vibe to do it for this show, and I have no idea. We've only spoke for maybe an hour, and maybe a couple of messages here and there on Messenger. So we've not really had a lot of in-depth conversation to get to know each other, really, as of yet. So I had no idea of you, but there was a sense of, and I've noticed this with the people who do get contacted, there's a sense of that this was kind of arranged, in a sense, where people, what I just say to people is, if there is an afterlife, there is a before life. So there's like, it was almost like it was meant to happen, it was designed to happen. And I feel this is what happened to me, and I know you have mentioned this, Richard, before. Do you get a sense of that, Garrick? Because I know that's a lot of that is in that kind of message that I sent for, I did for you earlier, and we'll show later on in the show. Do you feel that you have like a connection with these beings, or is the potential for you to have a connection with these beings?
Yes, because it really kind of started with my grandmother. She had a UFO experience. I think this was even before I was born. She was seeing a guy at the time who was a truck driver, and he was on a delivery in California. And the road that they were on, it was like on this side was the side of a mountain, and then they're on the road, and then on this side was a cliff. So there was nothing for her to look out, except the side of this mountain. So she was looking out the driver's side window, and it was at night. And all of a sudden she said, "John, what are those?" And she said there were 3 large round discs, and they were glowing, but they had tails coming off of them, and they were just coming right towards them. And she said that the guy that she was with, John, he like turned and looked, and then he turned back really quick, and he was like, he didn't know what they were. And she said they flew very close to them, and then all of a sudden they shot straight up into the air. And a few miles down the road, they ended up stopping at a truck stop, went inside, ordered some coffee. They didn't say a word about it, but someone in there brought it up, so other people had seen it too. And then she said before long, the whole entire place was talking about it. But I remember her telling me that story when I was just a kid, and it just always fascinated me. And then there was another incident when I was about 10 years old, when my dad and I were over at her house, and we were mowing her lawn, and it was about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, so it was getting dark. And we had just loaded all of the equipment into my dad's truck, and we were just standing there talking, and off to the west I see this light, and I thought it was an airplane at first, but as it got closer I realized it wasn't, because it was spinning and it was round. And I pointed it out, and my grandmother, she was like just kind of flabbergasted, and she said, "What is that?" And my dad's like, "I don't know." And this thing flew right over us, and it was very, very low. Now, this may just be my sense of, being a kid at that time, but it really felt like it was so close that with a really strong arm, I could have thrown a rock and hit this thing. And as it flew over, it went off into the east and disappeared.
Was it red?
No, it was multicolored. It was multicolored. It was like reds and yellows and white, and I want to say blue, but I don't recall like any green. And it's hard to tell whether the lights or like the whole thing was spinning, or if the lights were spinning around it. But this thing did not make a sound at all. But after it went over, my grandmother, she brought up that whole experience that she had, and we were talking about that. Well, all of a sudden, here it comes again from the west, right over us again. But this time, when my dad looked at it, he said that it was saying words on it. And it was saying something about a motorcycle being for sale. And I just recall, like, my grandmother and I looking at each other like, what the hell is he smoking? Like, there's no words on this thing. But he was seeing something completely different than what we were seeing. And it kind of made me start to think that maybe they were coming back by a second time to warp his memory or warp what he was seeing.
They have said that during one of our live streams in contact with them, that they will, with certain people, they can actually do it so only certain people will see them, and they can actually have it so different people will see different things. A lot of people will see it like a Hollywood movie, and I strongly suspect a lot of the asteroid activity that we're having at the moment that's being recorded, like this, what was it, 2020 SO, and the way it flew so close to Earth, I wouldn't be surprised if that was some sort of extraterrestrial object, because we know that they can do that. That is one of the things that they have said to us. I want to take a moment to go to the next picture, the next slide here, and this one blew me away. And you'll see this on screen now, Garrick. This is one of the ones that you did. I think it's a water ITC, and you've got the face there. And as soon as I looked at it, I recognised as the old face on Mars. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen or looked into the face on Mars, There's a lot of stuff that has sort of come up about over the years. People reckon it's been debunked, but that face has kind of been it's been used in the X-Files, which I thought was quite something. But when I seen it, it's that face. It looks exactly like that picture. So I've put a side by side here on screen that you should be able to see now. And can you see the actual? You can see the similarities. You can see the eyes are a very similar shape. If you look at the nose, again, it's a similar shape. You can see the mouth has got a very similar sort of shape. You can even see the kind of like the curly bits at the top, or it looks like. So I thought that was quite a capture. That one personally, for me, when I looked at it, that blew my mind. It was like, that's the face on Mars.
Yeah, that one's pretty wild. And it actually, when I first looked at it, to me, it looked like you could almost see its hand on the side of its face, like its pinky is right below the eye, like it's holding the side of its face, but it may not be its hand. It could simply be some sort of helmet or headdress or something. But if you really look, I mean, you can actually almost see the pupil in the eye.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, you can.
Yeah, which is quite incredible. It was quite incredible. And so,
which is, it's really interesting because most images that you see of the Greys or any sort of extraterrestrial, they have large black eyes. And a lot of these images that I'm getting, you can see a pupil, which I think is fascinating because it makes me think, okay, is this an actual full-blood extraterrestrial, or is this some sort of human-alien hybrid?
Well, the interesting one here, and you've highlighted it on this next picture, this looks like some sort of aquatic animal, or possibly, I don't know whether this is an alien being or if this is some sort of animal, because it's got like more of an animal-like face. But you look at the eyes, it's got kind of reptilian or amphibian-like eyes.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought the face and everything, it looked very aquatic, like some sort of underwater type being.
Yeah, I could definitely see that type of being underwater, or being associated, or having either underwater or maybe avian. So maybe like an association with the sky, perhaps. But there's definitely something there when it comes. There's got that kind of vibe to it, isn't it? It's got that kind of, when you look at like sort of science fiction and that sort of thing, and those sort of designs. And I think sometimes they will do this. They will show us images and things that we can sort of have a frame of reference for, and we can sort of look at. In the next slide here, now this is interesting. I don't know if this is a person or again an ET being. What I've done is I've taken some of the ones that you've done where you've added like a dye to it, or you've added a bit of coloration to it to bring it out more, and some of the others I've kept the original. But so this was one where I kind of kept the original. This has got like a kind of statue. Do you know, like one of those kind of old statues, those ancient statues, like the ancient spaceman in sort of I think it's like in Mexico or Peru. It kind of looks something along the lines of that. It's got a more humanoid type quality to it, and what I find really intriguing is the eyes are a bit harder to see on this, but it's the lower half of the face. You can see the nostril. You can see, you can even see that little dimple where that you kind of have just between the nostrils, and where you got like that little down bit goes in between your lip. You can actually see that as well. So I don't know. I would probably wager this is probably more of a human face than an extraterrestrial face. What would you guys think?
When I first saw it, for some reason, it instantly made me think of the Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles. Just because it's sort of rounded, and even though you can only see one eye, the pupil of that eye is really large, and then there's just this mouth full of teeth. I mean, you can see the upper and lower teeth, and you can see the segment of each tooth. So, yeah, I mean, I'm on the fence about that one. I mean, I've had people say it looks like a child, but I don't know that I see a child there.
Yeah, no, I don't see teeth. See, I see the ridges on its lips. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Only when you said about teeth, but I still see the lips more than teeth. Now I get this like the feeling that this is like a female.
Yeah, I definitely had a female energy with this.
I do. I just get that as soon as I saw it. Then I just had that female energy, and it's almost like it's looking back at you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I don't think this is. Obviously there's something going on, right, with the bending of light. But I think this is. It's almost like they're looking at you, like you're looking at the image.
Mm-hmm.
You get that sort of sense. That's incredible.
Well, the interesting thing, it's so big. I mean, it takes up practically the whole bowl area. You know, that one was very prominent, and that one really, as far as I'm concerned, it was super desperate to come through.
Yeah.
And they did incredibly well.
Well, this again, these are absolutely fascinating. I've put a couple together on the next two slides. This again is another ET face, two ET faces. Now, the one on the right hand side here, it reminds me of again. You can tell I'm an X-Files fan, but I don't know if you ever watched the X-Files, Garrick.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Well, do you know at the end of the first season where she goes into the military base and she picks up the alien fetus just before the deep? Spoilers here for anyone watching the X-Files. It aired in '94. If you haven't watched it now, it's tough, right? Sorry, I'm sorry. But just before Deep Throat gets shot, and she takes that alien, it's just almost like an alien fetus. It's got that kind of like a very young look to it, the one on the right hand side. And has there been something added to that, or is that exactly as it came out?
I think that is exactly how it came out. I'd have to go back and look in my folder, because usually what I do on Facebook when I post these, or on Instagram, is I will show the original as it was shot, and then I'll show one with color. But I'm pretty sure that is as it was shot.
How do you add the color then? Do you just color it in with Photoshop, or do you just
I'll just put the image in Photoshop, and then I'll create a blank layer on top of it, and then I'll change the blend mode on that blank layer to multiply or color blend or whatever, and then just paint the color in so that it's just laid on top. It's not adding really anything to the image that's not already there. It's just adding color and blending it into what is there.
Well, guys, this is the weirdest thing, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do anything with this here, right? But on the left hand side, you've got the alien's face you kind of got it on the top. But if you tilt your head and look at the blue thing next to it, it looks like a guy in a spacesuit.
It's you know what, I as soon as I tilted my head, I saw it before you even said it. I was like, that looks like a guy, and yeah, I see it.
Have you never actually seen that before?
It never. It's so weird, when I do these, and I need to start actually maybe doing it twice. I need to go through and analyze the video the way it was shot, and then I need to flip it upside down and go back through it a second time, just to see if I'm noticing something from a different perspective. But yeah, I never actually noticed that until you started to mention it.
Oh, he just looked at it, and it's like, that's like a spacesuit. So you can see his legs.
Yeah.
You can see, I wouldn't be surprised if it's looking at him from behind.
So where have you been posting these, Garrett? Where can I ask? Have you posted these anywhere else, or have you been posting them online?
Just on Facebook and the ITC Collective group, and then on my Instagram account.
So what's been the sort of like overall consensus on this? What are you finding? I mean, I can imagine you're getting the know-it-alls who were saying, "Oh, it's matrixing," because they got to be there. But what's the overall consensus on it? What are you getting like?
I think in the very beginning, because I was posting to a different group, and it almost felt like there were people in this group that were designed to literally discredit everything that anyone posted.
Mm-hmm.
And because every time I posted something, it was, that's pareidolia, that's pareidolia. And it's like, you know what? I can't prove to you that it's not pareidolia any more than you can prove to me that it is. Mm-hmm. But there is something, amazing in these images. But here lately, I think the quality of the way that they're coming through, and I think this is from me being consistent about it, because this is something I do every single day. I'll just shoot a short video. But I think doing it every single day like that it's just building up this connection that I have, and they are coming through a lot stronger and a lot clearer.
That is true, and they will. And the more you work on your connection with spirit and your connection with these forces through love, then it will happen. I've just brought up on screen now. There on the left-hand side is your volcano one. Now, that is incredible.
Yeah, that one's wild.
Have you tried actually looking at volcano eruptions and seeing if you can, gain a... What adds credibility to that? Sorry, just before I ask that question, what adds credibility to that, right, is the fact, like you said, it's portrait. It's 9:16. It's not 16:9, mm-hmm. Right? So, people could say, well, perhaps it's an image that was on a news channel or something, right? That was coming through. But obviously, as you said, there's nothing plugged into the into the TV. The fact that that's portrait, I think, adds a bit of credence to it. But what I would find fascinating, because you've got trees in the foreground. You've got some sort of light reflection underneath the mountain. You can see the sky. You can see the ash coming out. You can see it's coming out of the... I wonder if there is actually an eruption that is similar to this that perhaps we can look into. Because we had a lot... One of the things that we had in 2018 was we kept having something's going to happen in May. Something's going to happen in May. Something's going to happen in May. And one of the big things that happened on the world stage, and a lot of times they will give things that are happening on the world stage to highlight things that happen to you personally, right? And one of the big things that we had was the Kilauea eruption in Hawaii. Now, I don't know if this would be the Kilauea eruption, because Kilauea was a different kind of eruption to the one that normal volcano eruptions, because of the way it erupted. It didn't really as much come through the top like, say, Mount St. Helens does, or that sort of thing. It erupted in a slightly different way, but because of the way the system is of volcanoes are in Hawaii. But this is incredible. I wonder if we can actually pinpoint where this is, what actual volcanic eruption this was.
Well, it's interesting because when I posted this online, someone actually responded and said, well, you're actually within a couple of days of the anniversary of Mount St. Helens eruption. And I was like, whoa. But, when I look at that image, what I see is the volcano in the background, and then you have what looks like mountains in front of it, and then what appears to be a lake or a pond, and that's what the light is hitting and reflecting on. And then you have what is on the other side of this lake, which is the trees and everything in the foreground.
It's very strange.
It does look like Mount St. Helens. I've got to be honest, and you've said that, Garrick, that's what it reminds me of. What I find absolutely really weird, look at the angle of it. Look at the actual angle of it.
and it looks like it's been taken from up above. To actually,
high up.
Just think about how you would actually try and get. Think about how you would actually get that angle.
Well, I have an interesting story because there was a young photographer who lost his life during Mount St. Helens, and he was on the mountain, and he couldn't escape. And funny enough, because it's quite chilling, because he's got his sort of last photo of him alive. He was actually on the mountain, literally minutes before the eruption, and if you know, he was at a vantage point, and unfortunately he got caught in the pyroclastic cloud. So I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah,
you know, it's interesting.
What about the one on the other side? What about the that looks like a Renaissance painting.
The one in the middle, or the one on the very far right?
The one in the middle.
Yeah, that one was insane. And again, I had to. Well, no, I thought I had to flip that one, but I guess I didn't because the date is at the bottom. But when I first looked at it, I saw the older, which I think that's I think it's a gentleman, because it looks to me like it's like an older man and he has glasses on. But I saw that first, and the more I looked at it, then the children started to take shape, and I was like, oh my God, like, what am I looking at, you know? And it really made me think, is this two children that just passed and this is the guide who's leading them to the other side, or is this a grandparent meeting them?
Well, it looks very much like a Renaissance painting to me.
Yeah.
It does look very, and the one on the right hand side, now that looks like, do you know what that reminds me of? Now, I'm a wrestling fan. Now, back in 1993, whenever you did the wrestler, The Undertaker, there was a match he had with, I think it's The Way You've Done It, though. It was a match we had with a wrestler called Yokozuna, and they put him in a casket at the end of the thing. They kind of brought him up on the screen, and they kind of give this negative effect. They did. But, you know, this the very, very incredible. Guys, what I'm going to do, because I have just found something. I don't like normally to do this on show live, right? But this has blown my mind, because I just had to know. I just had to know, right? So if you guys can keep an eye on the screen here, right? I'm just going to bring this in. Let me just delete these from here. I'm just going to bring this in. If you guys can see this, right, you'll see me edit using the software here very quickly, right? Don't normally do this, but you will see this on screen now. I've just brought up a picture of the Mount St. Helens eruption. And as you can see, there's a lake.
Oh, there
there's
is.
small
Wow.
mountains in front of it.
Wow.
Now, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Wow.
So just thought
You've
I'd
even
do
got
that.
the two. You've even got the two small peaks just in front of the volcano.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm flabbergasted.
And if you think about it, right, if you actually look at the one on the left hand side, the trees could actually be the reflection. They could be reflections, because if you take everything from the line of mountains as water, and the water is actually reflecting what's behind the water, right? You've got the white part, like the white bit, the white reflection. Just down from that, you've got like a white dot.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's reflected. So it looks like that's actually water. It's water. The peaks. It looks near enough identical. Even the shape of the mountains.
I bet you could. I bet there is an image that probably would fit that image so closely. this is the thing, right? And I wanted to say this as we went on, right? I've been doing this a long time, right? And the one thing I know is with this stuff, it's given to you in bits.
Yes.
Okay? It's given to you in just enough amounts. Because at the moment, the world isn't ready to have that 100%. The world, I'm on about. Individuals, yes. But the world isn't ready to have that definitive contact with anything outside this world. Because, well, you only have to look at the world to know that. And I think this is what this is about. I mean, I think this is the little stepping stones. It's like you said, Garrett, you put in everything into it. You know, you do it every day. You're constantly in that sense of communication. So your friendship, if you like, with the council, with spirit, will increase. And I would say, right, and you're going to have the people who question everything, right?
Which is good.
Like
which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. No, yeah, you've got to have people. You know, you need people to be skeptical, right, to bring a balance, right? But you've got the people who will just dismiss. They want definitive proof. They want, you know, that ghost to come out of the door and say boo. You know, they want that alien. They want that alien on the White House lawn. They want that before they believe, and they'll keep seeing it, but it's not enough. The problem with that is it will never be enough.
Yeah.
And I think I'll say it. I think you have something going on here. Get it?
Definitely.
I really do. I've seen the images. I've studied pareidolia and matrixing. I have really delved into that, right? Because it was something that kept coming up in my own life with my own disbeliefs. And I believe you've got something. I believe this is a form and the start of contact, and this is what they do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the sad thing is, the way technology is advancing, we're getting to a point to where they could even fake something so incredibly well that people are even going to have a hard time believing, is it real when it is real? They're going to think it's fake.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's,
I you know, me and Jazzy have had battles over the responses, because I can't hear all the responses. I can't hear all of what your responses that we are going to listen to in this show. But and I've tried to find where it makes me believe. And where it makes me believe is in what it says. It's not how much I can hear it. It's not how it sounds. It's not where it's coming from. It's what it's saying.
mm-hmm.
If that fits in with the world we live in, and if it speaks to you more than what the outside world speaks to you, if it gives you something that you're looking for, and I you know, we've said this on the show, we're looking for that person. I'm looking for that person to put my faith in. And at the moment, I'm putting my faith in a spiritual entity that I don't have a physical relationship with. But what they're saying resonates with me. So, I mean, that's how I look at it. I don't know if that's just the way I feel about it. But, you know, with your message, when I heard it, we had this conversation before the show aired. And I said, the way it sounds, I haven't quite heard that the way it's, you know, the style of language it's using. It was quite, I'll be honest, it quite blew me away.
Yeah.
And that was what did you say that was? The app you're using in the one, Jared?
That was EVP Shifter.
EVP Shifter.
Correct. And what I do when I use these apps, because I was super skeptical when I first started using them, so I wanted to make sure that there was no network or no outside source that could come through. So I would turn off my Wi-Fi, I would turn off my Bluetooth, I would turn off cellular data, and then I would even put the phone in airplane mode just as an added, you know, way of trying to block anything from coming through. And so I would know these responses are simply coming from this app. There's no other place for them to come through. And there's a feature that it has where you can turn on your microphone so that it will take in your voice and then somehow put that into the mix. But I've never turned that on because I don't want something that I say to get taken into the app and then used in a way where I think it's a legitimate response and it's actually not. So I've never turned that on. I've just used the app straight as it is. I haven't even adjusted any of the dials or anything. It's just I open it up and go. Just default settings.
Well, let's take a look at that message now. It's about 4 minutes long. So we'll take a look at that message now and we'll get some reaction after. Guys, if you're listening at home, you might want to listen to this on headphones. All I have done, I have taken the original responses that Garrick has sent me. So I've taken the original responses and I've just simply slowed them down. That's all I have done is on the edit suite, I've put them into the edit suite and I've just like I do with ours, I've slowed them down. And everything I've heard, I've just written down on screen. So here it is, guys. Here is the message that Garrick has had from the Council of 12.
Can you tell me your name? Eoch, can you tell me why you are connecting with me and why you came through? Eoch, I would really love to know why you reached out to me. Is there a message that you're wanting to tell me? There is. I heard that very clear. Holy shit. Eoch, I heard that very, very clearly. Eoch, can you tell me what the message is that you want to tell me? Is there some... Is there something important that you're wanting to tell me? Eoch, does it have anything to do with the number 1111? Man, I so badly wish I could understand and hear the voices much clearer. It must take a lot of work to get your voice to come through clearly. It does? I heard that.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Just bring us back up on screen now. I was just replying to Marceline in the chat because she says it's almost like they're speaking through a translator, which we actually had that bit of a conversation earlier on, where we said that for us, or well, especially when I'm doing the ITC, Jonathan actually does work as a bit of a translator. And I think that's kind of part of his role when obviously he communicates with me directly, but that does happen. And I think what this Enoch may be doing, or Eoch might be doing, would be the same for Garrick. But what I find is quite interesting, I haven't looked into this as much, but if you look at the biblical figure, or the biblical times figure, because it's not actually in the Bible unless you are in Ethiopia, the books of Enoch, so the Enochian texts, do talk or make reference very similar types of things to this sort of phenomena. So guys, are you back with us?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you couldn't hear that during this, but I know you have heard the video before we started the stream. Is that is right, isn't it, Garrick?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So, what was your? Do you feel that translation is? I know we did hear slightly different things. So, did you feel like what I translated was accurate, or do you think the truth is somewhere in between? What's your feelings having someone else sort of translate it? And what's your feelings on it moving forward? Because I know we got the name, you had it as Eoch, and I heard Enoch. That's why I heard Enoch. Mm-hmm. So what was your thoughts on it, buddy? And please feel free to shoot from the hip.
No, I feel like your interpretation is dead on. I mean, I know that when I was listening, I was hearing different things. But when I hear what you have come up with, I'm just like, wow, I couldn't have been more wrong on some of those responses. And if you look at the original transcript or the transcript that I had done, there was like a lot of question marks because I was like, I have no idea what's being said here. Mm. And a lot of times I'm like, is this just, are these even responses, or is this just the nature of the app, But when you've slowed it down, it's like, wow, there is definite speech there. And I was really floored with what you had done. Absolutely.
That's all I've done is just slowed it down. I've taken where the speech starts and where it doesn't, and like if there's any bits like choppy bits where it's like the kind of thing, I've just cut those bits out. So you can actually hear the conversation happening and going on between you guys. That's kind of what I try and put across. Because the way I think of it is, if you are talking to a person, they are going to say things that are either going to relate to the last thing they said, the next thing they said, or something you've said. Right. That's how the nature of speech works.
Well, and I also sort of thought of it like, like they're talking through a CB, and you get that static of like a CB radio. I mean, that's just what came to me one time when I was listening. It's just almost like you're getting these, these responses, or you're getting like when you're on a very bad connection and you're only getting part of the, sentence coming
What
through.
I would be interested in hearing to see if you can actually contact them using the SCD2, because I know they know how to use that, and I would try different apps with talking to them. Use the ones you're comfortable with, obviously, but when they say stuff like, they will tell you things like, this app is harder to work with, or this app is easier to work with. They will say stuff like that. They will tell you. So don't be afraid to ask them, is it okay? Can you use this app? Do you want me to use a different app? Because I have found that a few times where I've gone, is this app okay? Is it working right for you at the moment? And they might say, yes, I can talk clearly. Or sometimes they might go, no, something's slightly wrong. Can we use something different? And they will do that sometimes, because it can be down to a number of factors. It could be, if it's an app, I know you obviously turn your Wi-Fi off for most of the apps. I know the SCD2 does need a Wi-Fi connection because it's using digital radio for the audio. But even if you can use, there's different ones that you can try. I have found, like the one that EVP shifter and Deadwave is supposed to be good. I really want to try the new one. Oh, what's it called? Signal. I want to try that. I might actually pick that up tomorrow. So there is don't be afraid to mix and match them a little bit, because they will, once you have that connection's with you and not the app. If that makes sense.
So, well, I actually have a program called Infinity. I think it's Infinity Box, where you can load in your own audio.
Yes.
And because I do also reversed speech research, so I've wanted to record myself or possibly take some audio and just flip it around and then load it into each of the 10 banks and ask questions. And if it's in reverse and I'm getting absolutely clear responses, I'll know that something's working. But I know that we can get clear responses just in reverse speech anyway. But if it's answering the questions that I'm asking, I'll know that there's something there that's working.
So what's next for you then, Garrick?
Just continuing on the way. I mean, I feel like I'm on this path, this journey, and I'm just kind of taking it day by day and see what happens and where it's taking me, and just making sure that I stay consistent on, connecting with them, getting them to come through and reveal themselves to me. I do want to, really sit down and work with these apps even more, because I've really kind of have eased off of it just a little bit. Though I actually want to tell you that I don't remember if I've told you this or not, but what started this whole connection with this Eoch or Enoch is I was on the phone with my brother and we were talking about Bigfoot, and all of a sudden it sounded like he had put his hand over the phone. And he was I thought he was talking to his wife. And so I was just patiently waiting, but it was going on for such a long time. I'm like, okay, this is a little rude, And so I was like, hello, can you hear me? And it just continued. It just kept going. And then all of a sudden, a very clear female voice came through and said, Garrick King, can you hear me? And then the phone just went dead. And I immediately thought like something might have happened to my brother, because he's in very poor health. And I thought something happened and his wife was there and she was trying to get my attention, but we had a very bad connection. But my brother instantly called me back and he's like, what happened? And I said, well, I thought you were talking to your wife. And he's like, no, she's not even here. And then I explained to him what had occurred and what I heard through the phone. And he said, it sounds like someone's trying to get a hold of you. And I was like, you might be right. So that's why I went to those apps and reached out to see if someone was trying to get a hold of me. And that's the response that I got.
Wow.
Wow.
That
Well,
is...
they do interfere, right? And they'll see and choose opportunity. Because me and Jazz have had numerous occasions where they mess with our phones. I'm pretty sure we have a weird recording somewhere, Jazz, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've got it on one of my EVPs. They use and choose opportunity, right? They will get you to where you need to be. And I think with this, I think just keep going with it. Get it?
Yeah.
Don't let anyone make you doubt it or tell you otherwise. Just keep going with it, because the more we are going on, and it's like this thing with this science advisor who's coming out and saying about the divine council. And it's like this obelisk, this everywhere at the moment. It's everywhere, right? People are getting fed up of it now. It's so everywhere. There's 16 of them now. There's 16 different obelisks now around the world, right? Now, this has been in the space of 2 weeks, right? They've tried to say, is this one artist? They're saying, is this artist that died, did this and that. Now, in the crisis we're in, with the lockdowns, it can't be done by one person. So the artist theory is, unfortunately, has fell to the wayside. Now, yeah, it's copycats, right? Or is it something else? Right? It within that possibility at the moment, we've got the Pentagon saying this, we've got this guy saying that, we've got Trump. He's just looks like he's bursting at the bit to tell everyone it's aliens. I mean, he would love to be the first person to do that, because he go down in history. And I think it's just gonna keep escalating and escalating, and then the people who have said, well, we were saying this, we've been saying this for a long time, we're going to be the ones that's already going to have a knowledge base of it.
Right.
So I think you just keep building it, just keep growing with it, try different things, try new things, and it'll just, I think it's, I think you've got something. I think there's something happening.
That's what I feel like. I mean, I feel like I was saying earlier, that I am on this path, this journey, and I've always had this feeling that there's a reason that I'm here. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I have and I'm not trying to make myself sound like I'm something special. I'm not saying that at all, but it's just this internal feeling inside that I just can't dismiss, that I am supposed to do something. And I wish I knew what it was, and that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to seek out and find these answers and some sort of guidance and direction as to what I am supposed to do.
Well, it's the way you use them, I believe, right? It's the way we use this information. That's what I believe. It's what's in you, right in our hearts. That is why we're chosen, and they pick us for these things. They look right down inside you. It's what happened to me in meditation. It's what they told me. They said they're looking for the connection between the physical and the spiritual, where the two can exist at the same point in time.
Right.
It's not about becoming spiritual beings where we have to leave our bodies and we leave the physical. That would be, the physical would be empty. So it's about being there and here. That's what the physical is about. Is so the soul could be a physical being. It's having that. That's what it really boils down to. And I think that's why it is. And I think they pick the right people. That's that's the way I see it.
Garrick, I would love to stay in touch with you, my friend, and it would be great to stay in touch with you, and it would be good to have you back on the show in a couple of months. And please do, if you want me to transcribe any more responses, I'd be more than happy to do it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have a great ear for this.
Right, well, guys, thank you for joining us on the show. And what I'll do, Garrick, I'll teach you how to do it yourself as well. And I'll kind of teach you how to go through it at some point. But I'd like to say thank you very much for coming on the show with us today. And it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you. I hope the conversation continues over the course of the coming weeks and months, because there's definitely obviously something in common that we have with regards to this type of contact. So it'd be really, really interesting to see how things develop with you, and obviously catch up with you a little bit down the road away maybe in a few months on the show, but obviously as things progress privately. So any final words from any of you guys before we finish the show?
I would just like to say that I first of all, I appreciate you guys having me on. I've absolutely enjoyed this, but I feel like our coming together is for a reason as well. And, I'm more than happy to share anything that I have with you guys, and I'll come on the show anytime you want.
Well, we are going to put an area of our website dedicated to different guests that we have on the show. So if you would like a gallery on our website when it launches, I can organise it so that can be sorted for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be, because I just want people to see these images. I mean, whether they believe in it or not, I think the more, just like my friend who's the skeptic, the more she sees, the more she believes. And I think that's important. I think that goes for anyone who's skeptic.
Well, the final word from the chat, Marceline said, I asked during a French Ghostbusters session if the spirits knew the Council of 12. My mate Manu Kalia, the answer was a clear yes. We know them. I'm sure they are very strong. You can feel that. Strong entities, the words of powerful entities, are always clearer. And she's just saying, thank you so much. It was an absolute amazing. Thank you guys for watching. I know there's been quite a few of you watching tonight. Please do share it around with your friends and get the word out there, because it does help us. So thank you guys very, very much for joining us on the show, and we'll see you soon for next week's episode, where are we able to announce our guests for next week, Richard?
Well, yes, I think so. Hopefully we're having YouTubers Lainey and Ben, who you might have seen on Nuke's Top 5, but they have poltergeist activity in their homes. Fingers crossed they're coming on the show to talk about their experience and where this led them. So yeah, that's next. And another one we might have, I think we might as well say this, fingers crossed again, obviously in the light of everything that's going on, the world is a bit chaos. We're having Kent from the Ghosts of Carmel, Maine on the show to share with us some of his thoughts and his experiences and how he's dealt with such a paranormal haunting. I mean, it is incredible. And yeah, hopefully they'll be on the show, and you guys will get to see it. But I got to be honest, Garrett, this one has been really intriguing for me, and it's somebody else coming. What we are getting from across the sea, and you're getting this. It's the you can hear the tone. It's the same kind of spiritual message. And this one has been a bit. I felt this one, and you hear like I always do with the guests we have on. Every guest we've ever had on this show has been in their given field, has been just amazing. But it's this one, like I said, has touched home a bit. And thank you for being honest about your contact with your father, and being honest and coming on the show and showing us your evidence. This one has been incredible.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Garrick. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time for another video. Take care.
Thank
Love
you.
and light, Para Peeps. Love and light.